You had so much going for you, movie. So much going for you. But then that ending, that 5 seconds of ending. Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Talkin' Movies. As always, I am your host, the real Gino Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about the Netflix original film Extraction, starring Chris Hemsworth, produced by Joe and Anthony Russo, yes, the Russo brothers of Marvel movie fame, and directed by Sam Hargrave. And I'm going to talk about Sam Hargrave here in a minute. What this movie is about is Chris Hemsworth plays a mercenary named Tyler Rake, and yes, it's a silly name, and the movie actually does make fun of his name a little bit. So I did enjoy that. He has been hired to rescue the son of an imprisoned crime lord. You have two crime lords battling each other, and one of them takes the other's son, and it's Chris Hemsworth's job to go rescue him. That's kind of the entire premise of the movie. But also, Chris Hemsworth's character has a troubled past, some things that happened to him. So the movie is also a lot of character development for his character and a bit of a redemption story for his character as well. I will warn you that at the end of this review, I am going to be talking about the ending of this movie. I have to. It's really what knocked this movie down a few notches for me. I won't say it ruined the movie because I really did enjoy this movie. So if you don't want any spoilers or anything, I do recommend this movie, especially since it's on Netflix. It's got a lot of good action. It's the story itself it's a little predictable, but it's decent. You really are watching this one for the action, and Chris Hemsworth's pretty good in it. So again, near the end of this review, I'm going to be talking about the ending, but I do recommend the movie if you don't want anything spoiled. I am going to talk about the movie, but I'll do my best to dance around any other spoilers or any other big spoilers anyway. I want to talk about Sam Hargrave for a second, and you may not know the name, but you know his work. In many different ways, he's been involved in a lot of the latest Marvel movies. He was a stunt coordinator on Endgame. He also had a part in Endgame. I'll tell you about that in a second. He's fight coordinator on Infinity War. He was involved with Atomic Blonde, Captain America Civil War. He was Cap's stunt double in The Winter Soldier. He's just been involved in a lot of different things. I mean, there's so many different films here. He was the stunt double for Cap in Avengers. He was involved in another movie I love, Warrior. He was Mark Strong's stunt double in Green Lantern. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. He was the stunt double for Gambit and Victor Creed in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Because he's been around for a long time. So this is the director of your movie, so you know that you are going to get some decent action. It's kind of like John Wick, and really, if I'm going to be talking about the action of this movie, a lot of it did remind me of John Wick. They even did some John Wick things, the belly headshot, the I had to reload my gun while I'm fighting a guy. There's all sorts of stuff like that. So if you like the action of John Wick, you get a lot of that brutal action in this movie as well. Oh, and I have to mention that for Endgame, when Cap fought Cap, not only did Sam Hargrave do stunts for that, he got back in the suit because he wanted to be involved, but his brother did as well. So him and his brother are the ones that did the stunts for the Cap versus Cap fight. So I really thought that was cool. And also in this movie, just so I don't forget to mention it, he also plays a character in this as well. And I was a little disappointed because he wasn't in it very much, and I really liked the character. They called him G, and he was a really awesome sniper. And I wish he would have been in the movie more. It would have been really cool to have more of that character, because they kind of played it off like he was this mysterious character, and he's just not in it very much. Okay, so with this movie, the best part, as I mentioned, is the action. I talked about the John Wick type action, but there's also some just really cool chase scenes. I think it's like a 12-minute, quote unquote, single shot chase scene. I mean, you can tell you do play the spot the cut game as you do in a lot of these movies that have these single action scenes, and you can spot where the cuts are, but it doesn't matter. It's still this just really cool chase scene through the streets and through buildings and everything else. So that scene's really cool. Just the action and fight scenes alone are awesome. If you're gonna watch this movie for anything, watch it for the action. I just recommend it for that. As I mentioned, the story itself's a little predictable. If you think something's going to happen, if you think things are going to go wrong, if you think someone's going to betray someone, if you think someone's going to team up later, you're going to be right. I mean, there's really no surprises there. I wasn't surprised when certain characters would show up and I'm like, oh, that character's probably going to end up betraying them, or that character's probably going to end up helping them. You're just not really surprised by the plot itself, which, again, with the action being so good, it's not a problem. It's really not. The movie does have some downtime here and there that goes maybe a little too long. That being said, you do need a little time to breathe between some of these action scenes. They do set up a couple characters that maybe they're going to want to use later and maybe other movies. Again, we'll talk about that in a bit. I'll probably mispronounce her name, but they set up a character played by Golshifteh Farahani. Hopefully I said that name right. And I mean, you can tell that she is going to be a badass later in the movie. You can just tell she's that kind of character. There's a part in the movie where she's lugging around this massive rocket launcher that's bigger than her, and then she has a scene near the end of the movie that shows that she's willing to get her hands dirty. And then also they set up a character played by Randeep Hooda, who, again, if I mispronounce your name, I totally apologize. They set him up throughout the movie like he's going to be important, but then they kind of forget about him for a while, but then he becomes important. I kind of wish, I know you got Chris Hemsworth in a movie and you want the main focus to be on his character. I get that. But if you're going to want this character to be important, you needed him in it a little more. They set him up near the beginning, and he is involved probably in the first half of the movie, but then they kind of forget about him for the most part for a little while. And then they bring him back in. The character worked. I just kind of wanted more of the character. He had motivations. He plays this character that he works for the father of the kidnapped victim, and the father sends him on his own and says, you better get my son back or I'm going to kill your family. So he has motivations to not stop. And I would have liked it if they would have had him on the chase the entire movie. I think it would have worked better if he was involved in the entire movie, but they kind of forget about him for a little while. Again, it doesn't ruin anything. It's just, if you're going to make this character important, keep him important, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You get a small role from David Harbour in this. He's pretty entertaining, especially when he gets the drinks in him. I'll just say that. So yeah, it's a decent movie. It is a really decent movie, and I do recommend it. The action's fun, and very brutal. The story itself is decent. So why did it get knocked down a few pegs for me? And here is where I'm going to get into big time spoiler territory. So again, I recommend this movie. If you don't want to know any more, there's not going to be anything else you're going to want to know if you don't want anything spoiled. So are you still with me? Here we go. Okay, the ending. Well, I won't give it all away. I just want to talk about, just the last 5 seconds of this movie, because it's what really kind of really Netflix, you had to do that. Okay, so at the end of the movie, the kid is safe, and it's 8 months later, and earlier in the movie, here's big time spoiler, Chris Hemsworth character sacrifices himself to save the kid. He basically goes and just holds off the bad guys so the kid can get away and get to Hemsworth's team. And the kid is safe, and it shows him in the water. It's mimicking a scene that Chris Hemsworth character does earlier, where he kind of sits underwater and is like calm and everything. And he comes up, but then he looks to his right, and there's a blurry figure that may or may not be Chris Hemsworth's character. Netflix, look, Sam Hargrave did an interview where he said, we had an ending where Chris Hemsworth's character is dead and people just didn't seem to like it. Maybe he should have survived. So Netflix and we all wanted to make everybody happy, right? We came up with this other ending, this ambiguous ending. This movie did not need an ambiguous ending. It's fine that the character died. He sacrificed himself. His character loses his son, right, to lymphoma. And he wasn't even there when the kid died. He wasn't there he wouldn't have been able to save him or anything, but he wasn't even there for the kid. He was there for this kid, and he saved this kid, and he was okay with dying. It would have been fine. That's really how the movie should have ended. Granted, or if you wanted to show that it was him and somehow he did survive, that's not as good, but it works. But this blurry, he may or may not be alive in case this movie does well and we want to make a sequel, BS ending, just really knocked this movie down a few pegs for me. You can't make everybody happy. This character, in my opinion, did need to die, but of course you got Chris Hemsworth and the movie does well, and we would like to send him on another mission. I get it, Netflix, but you're doing this with every single one of your movies. Even ones that don't have perfectly set up sequels, you still leave it just a tad bit open that if we wanted to, we can make another one. And this has become a real problem with a lot of these Netflix movies, is that they're purposely leaving these open just in case they can make another one. And again, it does not ruin this movie, but having this blurry figure show up at the end that may or may not be Chris Hemsworth, it hurts it. It does hurt it. You could have left it alone. Just had this one story starring this one actor playing this one character. You don't have to may or may not make a sequel later. And again, this movie is good. I enjoyed it. The action is great. Sam Hargrave, I want to see you do more stuff. I definitely want to see you do more stuff, especially if it's like this. But man, not another ending like this. Just that it was 5 seconds. It was like 5 seconds that just made me go, oh, movie, come on. You should have just left it alone. That's all I got to say about that. Other than that, I do recommend this movie. Again, the action, especially for the action alone, Sam Hargrave, you did a fantastic job. I want to see you do more stuff. If you can get to do more stuff, especially produced by the Russo brothers, and starring big name stars like Chris Hemsworth, I want to see you do more stuff. I loved your work on this. I would have loved to see more of your character, I will say that. But I want to see you do more stuff. You should do more stuff. Again, I'm not going to put him down for the ending of this movie, even though he may or may not have been a part of the decision to change the ending. Stick with your endings. That's the only advice I'll give you. Other than that, you did a fantastic job, and I want to see you do more. And I do still recommend Extraction on Netflix. That's going to be all for this edition of Talkin' Movies. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Gino YouTube channel, like this video. And if you have anything to say about Netflix's Extraction starring Chris Hemsworth, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Till next time, I'm your host, the Real Gino Reynolds. See you later.